Buckeye Nation, welcome to another edition of the Silver Bullets podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Sommers, director of the Ozone Radio Network, producer of Acosta Field with Tony Gerdeman, and contributor at Hayes and Cannon on theozone.net. We're going to be talking about the Ohio State men's basketball, and I have Eric with me today. Eric, how are we doing?
Doing all right, as long as I don't have to watch someone shoot 80% three-pointers again.
Yeah, that's one I was going to say that I was watching, we were recording Acosta Field last night, so I had the game playing in the background, Penn State against Michigan State, and Penn State missed some three-pointers, something they didn't do in Columbus when they played. And I forget the dude's name that he hit that three from
Watkins, Mike Watkins.
Watkins hit that three from the V court like was it? I think it was Jared on Buckeye Sloopcast from the V.
Yeah,
and it was from if I remember,
it was a 40-footer.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that?
Oh, I know. That's the crazy part. If I remember correctly, I think I seen before the game, like during warm-ups or something, Adam Jardy, who was on our show before, he tweeted out that they were practicing half-court shots, for their warm-ups. Well,
Penn State always practices half-court shots. That's something that's been coming across Twitter all season, is they just, right before they go into the locker room, they fire up a ludicrous quantity of half-court shots.
Well, it seemed to pay off in this game.
It sure did. That's why you practice them.
Now, I know you put out on Twitter something about the matchups and stuff, and I know when you and I messaged back and forth, you were making some comments about the officiating. Now, I'm going to go on a limb and say, bottom line, because I don't blame the officials, and yes, there was bad calls, and I know you're not saying that they cost Ohio State the game, but it just, we don't want to be like Michigan, right?
No, of course not. So, yes, I get pretty irate about the calls, and usually that's the only thing that comes through on Twitter, because nothing quite gets me into a mood to tweet as an official making a bad call. And I guess this is the podcast I get to talk about my officiating pet peeves. But
let it all out.
What really bothers me is when the officials are inconsistent, not when they are necessarily making a bad call, but when the specific call they're making is being made against one team and not the other, right? You watch something happen on one side of the court and they call it, and then you watch the exact same thing on the other side of the court and they don't. And you're like, oh, okay, come on, guys, right? I don't care if you call a tight game or a loose game. I care that you call a tight game with both teams and a loose game with both teams, right? Decide what is legal and what is not before the game and stick to it, right? I understand there's some flexibility in how you make your calls. There's some flexibility in what you see, right? There's some things that may come down to opinion, but in general, just be consistent. And that's when I start getting irate, when they're not consistent.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, and you're right. And there does seem to be a lack of consistency, and that's just across the board in every game. And yeah, they're human, but at the same time, some of it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But excuse me. The thing about the game, and I know one of them that you mentioned was about the matchups, which we'll get into, but it just, Penn State started that game off. That's their only loss of the season so far, and we know Ohio State was due a loss. It's just a matter of semantics, really, and just, it's like Purdue's not going to finish the season undefeated in the Big Ten. If you do, then hey, guess what? Just go ahead and run off with the national championship now, right?
Yeah.
But with the scoring from Penn State, it was, when we talk about the matchups, as you're going to explain it now. Is this the matchups that allowed them to be able to have like a 70, almost 80%, shooting night, or is it just one of those nights that Ohio State caught them on fire?
It was not the matchups. I will tell you that. This was not the game where we were beaten by matchups. This was a game where we did not play excellent defense. We were a hair slow, just a hair, which was enough. But we caught a Penn State team that was interested in hitting their shots, was revved up for the game, drain the shots that they got. They got just enough of an open look, and they took advantage of it. Hey, guess what? That happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not much you can do, and there's not much you can say about a team that hits their first 5 3-pointers and a team that hits 11 of 14 for a game. They
Mm-hmm.
scored 33 points on 3-pointers with 14 shots on 14 possessions. That's ludicrous, right? I'm sorry. You're not going to beat that team. I don't care who you are. I don't care who they're playing. If they wanted to play Duke, MSU, North Carolina, and shoot that kind of game, yeah, they're probably going to win. That's basically what Clemson did to North Carolina a couple nights ago. They just shot him out of the stadium, right? This is the live by the 3, die by the 3 mentality. Some nights you live by the 3. It's just falling for you, right? They describe the basket as an ocean. You're shooting into the ocean. You just can't miss, right? But then there will be nights where you try to play a game where you shoot the 3 and it just won't fall and you lose. I'll give you a great example of that. Ohio State versus Florida in the national championship. We went 4 of 22. And those 4 3-pointers, 3 of them came in the last minutes of the game. Right? It was this, we started hitting our 3-pointers and it was, oh, well, where was this all game? If this had been falling, we would have won the game.
Yep.
But it just didn't happen, right? So live by the 3, die by the 3 is absolutely a mantra. And Penn State lived by the 3. So credit to them, right? They played a great game.
What's kind of crazy about that game to me is that as hot as they were shooting the ball, Ohio State kept making runs and getting back into it.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden Penn State would go out and they'd take like a 10, 12, 14-point lead, and Ohio State would just start chipping away. And you just, like, towards the end of the game, Pates Diop, wow. I mean, one crazy shot followed by another crazy shot. And even for how hot that they were shooting, it took a crazy 40-foot shot in order to win the game and not send it to overtime. We don't know what would happen. I mean, they could have lost still. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's an L. But, I mean, there was credit to Ohio State for fighting back and not hanging their heads and saying, it's just not our night.
Yep. The thing I said after that game was, here's the lesson you take away from it. We were able to tie the game with 5 seconds left after being down 13 with a couple of minutes left. That shows great toughness. What sucks is, Mike Watkins hit a ridiculous 40-footer to salt the game away, buzzer beater, right? You can't control that. The lesson you take away from it is 13 points down, they fought back, they hit the shots they needed to, they played great defense, and they tied the game and put themselves in a position where they could potentially win it. That's all you can ask for, right? If they manage to drop a shot with 5 seconds left, tough beans. That's the way it goes, right? And it was it a lucky shot? Yeah. Watkins probably wouldn't say it was a lucky shot, but
of course not.
Yeah, it was a lucky shot, right? He banked it off the glass. There's not much you can. Not much you can do about that.
I still say, I mean, you're looking at the playground rules, from back in the day.
I got to call bank.
Yeah, I don't know if they still do that nowadays or not, but I know during our time, if you didn't call bank, then that it didn't count.
Yeah, well, too bad. That's not the way they play it.
Yeah, I know. Well, what was nice though is, all right, so Ohio State gets almost a week off, which was definitely needed for the schedule that they had. And they only lost one game in that crazy schedule of how many games and how many nights, and really very impressive for everything that they went through. So then, Tuesday night, here comes Archie Miller and the Hoosiers. And one of the biggest things I know of a lot of us Ohio State fans were wondering when Tom Crean got let go and Indiana hurried up and fired him, or, they fired Tom Crean and they brought Archie Miller in from Dayton. And then, we're all like, well, he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Thad, and then they let Thad go. And I know we talked about on Acosta Field, we have Chris Holtman, and right now, based on what happened in this game, are the Hoosiers ever going to show up in Columbus again?
Of course they will.
I mean, it didn't even look like they got off the bus.
Well, okay, so they didn't get off the bus for the first 10 minutes, but then they got off the bus and played a great game for the next 30.
Yeah,
right? as much as it was a boring game to watch, right? Flat out. There was nothing. There was no intrigue. There was no interest. Indiana would go on a little run. Ohio State would go on a little run. Indiana would go on a little run. Ohio State would go on a little run. And it bounced around between Ohio State being 18 points up and Ohio State being 12 points up. And it just fluctuated all game long, right? Maybe a little bit more than that. But, Indiana, if they hadn't gotten themselves into a 15-point hole, that's a much more interesting basketball game. And that looks a lot more dangerous than what we actually saw. So is Indiana really as bad as everyone's saying they are? Are we really that fortunate to have Chris Holtmann and not Archie Miller? I think we're jumping the gun a little bit here, sports fans, right? Yeah, Archie Miller's not having a great opening, but that Indiana team is not that bad. They took Purdue to the wire, and they played pretty tough basketball against the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and I know before, I think it was last week's show when we talked about Indiana, and we mentioned about how the big thing was, they're a team on the rise and all that. And I think they lost to Minnesota last weekend, or right before they played Ohio State or something like that. So I mean, they're having their ups and downs, their growing pains, and you're right. It's too early to call, but it's nice just to feel right now just a little bit of redemption as far as feeling like you might have possibly got the better coach, because we also discussed the rivalry that used to be between Ohio State and Indiana. And maybe we're going to get back there one day, but it really seemed like there was a real big rivalry between Ohio State and Indiana. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, there used to be. Will we get back to it? I sure hope so. Right, Ohio State Indiana was a fun rivalry to have on the hardwood. Right. Is it there right now? No. Right. I don't think we loathe Indiana nearly as much as we used to back when they had a certain former Buckeye player coaching them, being a what all over the court, throwing chairs and all the other charming habits he had.
But he knew how to win.
There's no doubt about it. He's still the only coach to take a team undefeated in the Big Ten since 1978. Think about that for a minute.
That's kind of
right?
crazy.
The only coach who's come even remotely close to that is Bruce Weber in 2005, and we put an end to that on the last game. And Purdue might be able to do it this year. We'll see. You said they were due for a loss. I don't know. They've played some tough games recently, but I don't know.
And that's why I'm saying that they're due for a loss. It's just one of those ones. I mean, granted, if they were going through their schedule and they're beating everybody by 25 points, I mean, that'd be something else that we'd be sitting here talking about. But it's one of, I mean, we play a lot more games right now in the Big Ten than we did back in, during that time. But, I mean, that's not to take anything away from Bobby Knight and what he did with the team.
No, absolutely not.
Now
absolutely not.
We had the nice victory, so we get to celebrate, pump up our chest. We wipe the dirt off from the 3-point loss. So they're not 10-1 in the conference now, correct?
Yep.
And we go to Illinois. No, Illinois comes here.
Illinois comes to us.
Yep. Illinois comes here for Sunday, and they play at 12 o'clock. It's right in front of me that I can't see it. And it's on FS1 for our listeners that want to watch the game. And you want to give a little preview on Indiana or Illinois?
Well, I actually haven't seen Illinois play yet, so I started trying to make sure to watch some of our upcoming opponents, but I haven't been able to catch an Illinois game. So I'm going to look up their stats. But what I will say is I have noticed that Illinois is still so. Of course, Illinois had a former Buckeye assistant as a head coach for a number of years. Gross was his name. We all remember him. He didn't do so great at Illinois. Illinois has been sort of bottom of the barrel Big Ten team lately. They still are to some extent. They're in the bottom half of the conference. But they're not a terrible team. They are playing tough. they dropped a 45-point victory at Rutgers in the last week, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they were up some ridiculous score. Did I have that right?
I they
Asking
just
the tough
played.
ones.
They just played Rutgers, and they won 91-60.
Okay, so at one point, I think they had something like a 45-point lead on Rutgers. Bear in mind, we went and we played Rutgers, and we never quite got a 45-point lead on them. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Something to keep in mind.
They're 2-8 right now in the conference, and I'm trying to pull up some stats for them. Also, see here if it'll do. We are loading. All right, we are looking at a team that is averaging 77.8 points a game, and they are surrendering 72.1 points a game. They are shooting. Doesn't have the percentage here.
They're not shooting great. They're shooting 44% from the field.
Yeah, that's what
in
it is.
Comparison, OSU shoots just a hair shy of 50.
Mm-hmm.
Field.
And their 3 points, they're shooting 31%, almost 32%. And their defense, they're actually giving up. Their opponents are shooting 46%, and from the three, they're shooting 33%. If I'm reading that correctly.
At one point, Illinois was beating Rutgers at Rutgers. I believe this is at Rutgers. No, it was at Illinois. It was at home for them. They were beating them 82-39.
Wow.
Oh my. Right. What does that say? Well, okay, maybe
Rutgers, you're bad at basketball too.
yeah, Rutgers, you're not doing so great. Maybe it says
stop looking like your football team.
Illinois had a night like Penn State where they went ham, right? It could be any number of things that cause that. So, it's one data point. Be careful when you're interpreting it. Yeah, actually, Illinois only shot 40% from the 3-point, 11 for 27. Yeah, they just stomped on Rutgers and had their way.
Yeah, they shot. It looks like here for the game, Illinois shot 57% from the field goal, 57% for field goals,
yep.
And then 41% for the threes.
Yep. I mean, it was a good night. I mean, they shot more than 50% from the field. That's a solid night. But
it doesn't help when you're Rutgers and you have 25 turnovers. Even though Illinois had 17, so I mean, you're looking at what a difference of 8.
That was a sloppy game.
Yeah.
Wow. 22 fouls to 21 fouls. Oh, wow. Messy game.
And
anyway,
Rutgers had 10 steals and Illinois had 9. That's kind of crazy.
Certainly is. So, is Illinois someone that could come in and beat us? Yeah, well, Penn State just came in and beat us, so certainly Illinois can come in and beat us. Is it likely now that the team's getting a little rest and they've learned some lessons? Probably not. The lineup favors us to some extent. It does not look like Illinois has a particularly great center that they can lean on and try to get it in the paint and beat up on Wesson in ways that we can't defend. They're structured a little bit more like us, 2 guards, 3 forwards. That's sort of how we're structured. We usually play a 3-guard, 2 forward or a 2-guard, 3 forward, depending upon how the starting lineup is structured. But in general, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the biggest things that kind of concerns me about this game is the game afterwards that we have to play, that they have to play on Wednesday. They have to go out to West Lafayette.
Oh, wait, we only have 2 games into West Lafayette?
No, we only have 1. We only have the Illinois game.
I thought we had 4 home games, not 3. Are you sure?
Yeah, because we had we had Nebraska that was at home. We won 64-59. That was a tough game, and they were tired. We took
I
loss
forgot
to
about Nebraska.
we took the loss
the one I
to Penn
forgot.
State, beat Illinois or Indiana, and now we play Illinois, and we've got the big
And then
matchup
at Purdue.
where it seemed like at the halftime of the ESPN crew is all of a sudden people are trying to jump on that Ohio State Buckeye bandwagon that as much as you don't like them, Dan Dockich was saying, jump on board.
Yeah, well, he's got a point. We've been saying to jump on board with this Buckeye team since December when they really started to turn it on.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think this team is going to be able to beat Purdue? No.
I've been watching Purdue, man. That's a solid team. What is it, Haas in the center? And their outside shooting, they're like one of the best outside shooting teams in the country, I think.
Yes, they are, but they're very balanced. They attack you in a lot of different ways. They have Haas in the front court. They have the Edwards in the back court. See, look, I actually watched some Purdue games, so I know what's going on. They will shoot over you. They will attack the paint. They will do anything they need to, and they're very good at adjustments. They've got lots of pieces, parts that they can make use of to adjust to what you want to do and adjust to what you're doing defensively and find a way to score, right? Come hell or high water, they're going to find a way to score on you. So you can't have a bad shooting night. You can't have a bad rebounding night. You just have to play solid basketball. Michigan did that a couple of nights ago and lost by a couple baskets, not a lot, just a little. And they just couldn't quite get over the hump. Purdue just did everything too well, right? Can't really stop them from doing what they want to do. All you can do is try to keep pace and put yourself in a position to try to steal the game away at the end. That's what at least the Big Ten has taught us against Purdue.
Well, I mean, you look at you brought up Michigan. Out of 2 games against Michigan, they have lost by a total of 5 points.
Wow. 5 points, really?
The game at Michigan, they lost by 1. Michigan lost by 1 point. And remember, that was the per Michigan fans, the controversial out of bounds because it went off of a Michigan player and they turned it around and gave it to Purdue because it was, after the replay and everything, it was kind of hard to tell, but it definitely was off of Michigan. And then Michigan committed a foul to allow Purdue to go to the line.
Yep.
Which gave them that, I think they went 1-1 on the free throw line. Maybe it was Haas or something like that. That was at the free throw line and won the game for them.
Yep.
And then you look at when Michigan went out there and, like you said, they lost by 4 points on the 25th. And they beat Indiana by 7 points. And,
so Indiana put up a good fight, but they didn't do enough. And then Maryland, a couple nights ago, put up a good fight, but didn't do enough, right?
Yeah, last night, right? Yeah.
Yeah, poor Maryland, they're struggling with injuries like crazy. I think they've got maybe 6 healthy players this year.
Yeah, and that's the one of their biggest things is just it was kind of crazy because I was noticing with the Maryland players, a lot of them seem to be getting in foul trouble, the ones that were out there. And it's kind of hard to guard Haas. But I think with Wesson down there, that's going to be a nice battle between those two. I mean, there's a lot of mismatches around for Ohio State, but they also have Keita Bates-Diop. So, I mean, I think that's going to be a great game, and I can't wait for it, even though I don't want to look past Illinois, and that's our next game. So, I mean.
We're not going to record another one of these until after that game happens. So
right.
I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's why we're going to especially since next week is signing week or signing day, and we have a bunch of shows to be covering signing day.
Oh, man.
It's going to be a fun week.
Yeah, it sure will. Yeah, so I don't want people to think that I'm totally a Debbie Downer on the basketball team trying to take on Purdue. That Purdue team is just flat out good. And I've got measured expectations here. I think we'll play a great game. I think it'll be a great basketball game. I just don't see us stealing it away in the end. Maybe we can, but it's at West Lafayette. That's
Well, you look at that,
that's
and
a tough
it's
place
just
to play.
right. And you look and you see Purdue is averaging 84.2 points a game, and they're surrendering 63.7 points a game. That's
using the ESPN stats. You should be using the Ken Palm rateless statistics. Tisk.
No, this is actually off of Purdue.com.
Well, okay, so they're using the ESPN statistics. You should be using the Ken Palm statistics. Tisk. Purdue, their adjusted offense right now is third in the nation. Third. Their defense is 11th. So actually their defense has dropped a little bit. It used to be single digits. It was like third and fifth defensively in the nation. That's pretty good. OSU's, in comparison, using Ken Palm's rateless statistics, OSU is ranked 20th and 20th. Pretty good, but it ain't Purdue good.
Yeah, it's, and if you look at, and I was just, we were talking before we started recording. Our good friend Joe Dexter, he reached out to me and was looking for some player stats as far as analytics and stuff like that. So then I'm looking over here at the, statistics of individuals and stuff, and I believe on the Bart Torvik site that I'm looking at, if I'm reading this correctly, that actually Keita Bates-Diop statistically is one of the best in the Big Ten.
Yes, he is.
So, I mean, they have that going for them.
Yeah, they sure do. And it'll be interesting to see how does Wesson handle Haas. Haas is going to be really the first big true Big Ten style center that really dominates the paint kind of player.
Yep.
How does Wesson handle that? It's going to be interesting to see how Tate and Keita Bates-Diop handle the Edwards brothers. It's going to be interesting to see if Purdue puts pressure on us, right? Everyone's been talking about how you beat us, which is you put pressure on our ball handlers and you make us make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I can't disagree with that perspective. That's a great way to cause us difficulties. So,
and there's also Dakota Mathis too. You got to keep an eye on.
Yes, that's right. Right. So there's a lot of things that are intriguing about this matchup that will certainly make it fun to watch, and I highly encourage Buckeye fans to turn it on because, again, this team, the expectations aren't that high. They've gotten high in the last few weeks, right? I think there was a lot of disappointment that we lost that Penn State game, but look, the expectations aren't that high. This is an opportunity to just cheer on your team, and if they win, holy crap, great. If they lose, well, you get to watch a good game, and it's not going to bother you too much. So enjoy it while you can, because there's only something like 7 games left this season.
Yeah, it's just looking at it right now. Purdue is 11-0, Ohio State's 10-1, Michigan State's 9-2, and Nebraska's 8-4, Michigan's 7-4. And then you look at everybody else, and they're sub 500 right now. Oh. So you're looking at, I think, our preseason predictions. We were picking Ohio State anywhere from 3rd to 5th between you, me, Micro Citro, and even when I had Kyle Lamb from Lane of 10 on.
So that prediction, that was after we had won 2 Big Ten games, in Wisconsin and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back even further, we were predicting OSU would finish more like 10th or 9th in the conference. Look at where we are now. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
interesting.
Yeah, we're 1 game back, and with, let's see, I should have looked at Purdue's schedule. I was over here on it because I want to see who they're playing before they play Ohio State, or if they have time off here. It looks like Saturday they're playing at Rutgers.
Oh boy.
So is that going to be a dogfight? Is Rutgers going to, show up? Is that going to be a dogfight, or, what's going to happen with that? But at least they're playing too, so we're not going to have a fresh team.
So we have 7 basketball games left before the Big Ten tournament. 7. And Illinois and Purdue are our last teams that we haven't already played once. We rematch against Iowa, Penn State, Michigan, Rutgers, and Indiana. So get out, support your team, right? Cheer them on.
Mm-hmm.
I see at least 2 losses still in these next 7 games. So they could use as much support as you could possibly give them.
Yeah, I see that there possibly could be 2 losses also, and I'm hoping that there's not, but hey. But even with 2 losses, guess what, folks? You're looking at a 3 seed, a 2 seed for the Big Ten tournament, which means you're going to have a first-round bye, if I'm not mistaken.
It'll probably be a 3 or a 4 seed, and you might still get a first-round bye as a 3. No, you definitely get a first-round bye. You might even get a second-round bye. Because we might be playing that goofy schedule that starts on Wednesday. They play the way that the ACC used to a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
It's these new schedules I'm not used to. I used to have the 11-team Big Ten tournament memorized pretty well, but I think 1 through 4 all get a first and second round bye, so you don't have to play till Friday. So you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Is that right? 8, 4, 2. Yeah, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Round of 8, round of 4, round of 2.
Yeah, if 2 more losses, the worst that they can do is finish 3rd.
There you go.
So, I mean, it's really nice position for Ohio State to be in, to have to, have less wear and tear on their body for the NCAA tournament. Who, when we originally thought, hey, that there's no way that Ohio State's probably going to be getting into the NCAA tournament. But now, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Your Buckeyes are going to be going dancing this year.
Yes, they sure will be.
Unless there's a complete collapse.
Even with a complete collapse, I think we still make the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're looking at a 3 or a 4 seed. We're one of the top 16 teams in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
A complete collapse that probably drop us to a 9 seed, maybe a 10 seed, something like that. It's a pretty good place to be.
Definitely. And you look at the Purdue schedule, like I said, they have Rutgers on Saturday, then they host Ohio State, and then guess who they play after Ohio State?
Right.
Sparty. So, I mean, you've got the Boilermakers, the Buckeyes, and the Spartans. Those are your top 3 teams. And Nebraska's on the outside, and Michigan's on the outside with their 4 losses. So, I mean, unless Ohio State loses 3 and Michigan State loses 2 and Nebraska and Michigan both went out, then they're guaranteed to be in the top 3, which, like you said, is huge for later on in the Big Ten tournament.
So I want to point out something that you just mentioned, just really quickly. Your top 5 teams in the Big Ten included Nebraska. Think about that for a minute. Okay, then maybe that was thinking about it a little too long. Did I lose you there? Did you have
No? I mean, Nebraska's they played Ohio State tough, and that was a tiring game for both teams. And Nebraska's an interesting team.
5th in the conference,
mm-hmm.
Right? What about the quantity of things that have to go sideways in this conference for Nebraska to end up at 5th? Right? It's a great testament to their coach. Right? That's some great coaching. I really respect the coach whose name I've totally forgotten out at Nebraska.
It's not Mike Riley.
Yeah, no, it's clearly not Mike Riley. And unfortunately, that's the name that keeps popping into my head.
I know. That's why I said it.
Face.
That's why I said it. That's what Tim Miles.
Tim Miles. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Jesus. I still got football in the brain. I gotta admit.
We always do. Always do.
I swear to God, we can be a basketball school. Anyway, a lot of respect for Tim Miles and the work he's doing in Nebraska. It's a tough place to recruit. It's a tough place to play, and he's doing great work. But you have to have Wisconsin not play well. You have to have Northwestern not play well. That's a very strange thing to say, but still, Northwestern usually snuck a few wins in here and there. for Nebraska to be 5th, tied with Michigan, who in the last couple of years has played for national.
No, they're not tied with Michigan. No.
I thought you said they both had 4 losses.
They both have 4 losses, but Michigan has 7 wins and Nebraska has 8 wins as of right now while we're recording this.
Fine.
So
Nebraska
technically,
is 4th in the conference.
Exactly. So technically, Michigan is where they belong.
No.
Well, actually, it doesn't really.
Half of the conference.
In all honesty, it doesn't matter if Michigan's 4th or 5th in this scenario because they're right where they should be, just like football. Not 1st, not 2nd, and not 3rd.
That's right.
So, yeah, it just, I mean, we talked about the Ken Prom rankings and everything. We've got Purdue, who's number 3. We've got Michigan State, who's at number 6. We've got Ohio State, who's at number 14 now. Yep. And then you have Michigan, who's at number 24. And, yeah, that's the top 40. That is it. Penn State is at 53.
Not even in the top 40? Wow.
Nebraska's at 56.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
Well, if you wanted evidence of whether or not the Big Ten is a little down this year, there you go.
Well, you know what's funny about that, too, is if you look at the Bart Torvik rankings, he's got Purdue at number 2, and he's got Ohio State at number 3.
Wow.
Michigan State at number 6.
I wonder what analysis Torvik is using that's different than Ken Pomeroy.
Yeah, and Michigan he's got at 16. Oh, Maryland. He's got Maryland at 34.
I'm skeptical.
And Penn State at 45.
Oh, okay. Now that I think about it, Maryland at 34. Maryland did just put up a pretty good fight with Purdue. So at Purdue with almost nothing in the tank. All right, maybe I can give Torvik some credit. Maybe he's got something there. All right.
Just, I mean, it's nice to see you've got 3 Big Ten teams in the top 10. And then you've got, like I said, Michigan at 16, so just missing the top 15 for it. So, I mean, you got 4 teams in the top 25, we'll say, of the of his standings.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, the Big Ten's not great or anything because if you look, I mean, as far as being down, you've got Virginia and Duke are 1 and 3 for the ACC, and then you've got North Carolina at 13, Clemson at 17, Florida State at 22. So, I mean, they're doing a little bit better than the Big Ten. The football conference of the SEC's only got 2, so we're not even going to discuss them. So, I mean, really, in all actuality, just by looking at it, the Big Ten has the second most behind the ACC. So, really, are we going to say that it's really that down?
Well, okay, but that's the top of the conference. So the top of the conference may be equally strong, but the meat of the conference, where's that in comparison?
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's
the meat of the conference is mess. They're so, right? So how much can the top-notch teams really learn beating middle-of-the-road teams? Does this mean the Big Ten's going to get into the NCAA tournament and lay an egg? You know, get no teams past the Sweet 16? It's possible.
Or can this be something to where we see three Big Ten teams, maybe even 4 Big Ten teams in the Final Four?
Well, that's never happened, so let's slow our roll there. Maybe 2 Big Ten teams in the Final Four.
There's never been 2 teams in the same conference in the college playoffs playing in the national championship game either.
Okay, that's a difference between teams actually playing games and teams being selected by a bullshit committee. Yes, I said that. You take your subjective crap and you stuff it. You get me an objective system and we'll talk.
That's it. All right, well, like I said, we play Illinois this weekend. Then we've got the big game against Purdue. which like we won't be we'll record afterwards, so we will be breaking that down and discussing it and looking at the future going forward from there. Is there anything else that you have or you would like to talk about today?
No, I think we covered it pretty thoroughly. Um, oh, well, there's all that officiating stuff. No, you probably don't want to talk about that.
Call the game square. Call it the same for both
Two
sides.
pet peeves. Two pet peeves. When a player takes a 3-point shot and a defender comes running across the court to try to interfere with the shot, if that defender makes contact with the shooter after the shot is off, that is a foul. Dear officials, follow the shooters to the floor. Stop watching the damn shot. Follow the shooter to the floor and call that foul. I'm tired of it. That's pet peeve number one. Pet peeve number two, if I hear another commentator, this is actually an officiating pet peeve. This is a rules pet peeve. If I hear another commentator say over the back again, I might strangle myself. Over the back is not a foul. Go download the NCAA men's rule book, Control F, over the back. You won't find it. It is a push. It's a push.
I was going to laugh because, what is it, on the Buckeye Network, radio network, they have Paul Keels calls the games on the radio, and he has Rod Stuckley with him, I believe. Mm-hmm. So one of the games, I forget which game it was. My wife was wanting to watch something else. So to, spend some time with her, I listened to the game and I watch it later, but I'll listen to it live, with my phone through the 97.1 app. And so I'm sitting there listening to the game, and all of a sudden I hear, there's a whistle, and I think it was maybe the Nebraska game or something, and all of a sudden I heard, yeah, that's a over-the-back call. And I was like, oh, if Eric only would have heard that.
Oh, my God. That needs to go away. Absolutely needs to go away. I loathe that. Oh, okay. By the way, really, you're watching. You're not watching the games. You'd rather spend time with your wife than watch the game. What kind of a Buckeye fan are you, man? Come on.
Well, I sleep.
I make my wife watch the games.
I sleep really hard, and there's knives in the house. No, she'll watch the games with me if really wanted to, but it's just sometimes nice letting them have able to get what they want, especially since during the March Madness time, that's when it's all going to be all college basketball.
Yeah, 15 hours of college basketball, 2 days straight. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's when she's always like, "Well, where's our shows?" Well, our shows aren't going to be being played because there's basketball.
That's right.
Which I'm hoping that some way, somehow, which I'm a cord cutter and I don't have Turner because I use Yahoo TV, and I am hoping that maybe I might have to switch a service for the month or something like that, because a lot of the games are on TNT and TBS.
Yep. TNT, TBS, and True TV.
Yeah, so I'm going to be having a bunch of TVs going on, and that's one of the ones where, I remember being, in high school and sitting there, and we had the big screen TVs, one of those big, old school projection types. And I would seriously, I think I was like maybe 15, 16, and my parents would order me a large pizza, and I would just veg out in front of the TV, eating a large pizza and watching, college basketball. Great times.
So here's my story. This is what I used to do. I would take a radio to school with me so that I could try to catch the games on the radio in class. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, if we had earbuds then, yeah, I would have definitely been able to get away with it. It was a lot harder to be able to try to do it with a Walkman and those old style.
I did it with a Walkman and the old style headphones.
Yeah,
I was a good enough student that the teachers didn't really give a shit, and they knew what was going on. So they were like, all right, fine, whatever. We'll let them have 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe they give a little bit of a shit, but I didn't. So.
Yeah, I most likely, I think majority of the time that's when I think after my freshman year, it finally stopped being an issue of, oh, I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's how I got the pizzas because I'm too sick to do anything. Oh, I hope this pizza will help you feel better. Oh, it is. So is this basketball.
Ridiculous. Sick as a dog, and your parents are ordering you a
Hey, sometimes you
pizza.
just
In quotes, heavy quotes. Sick as a dog in heavy quotes.
yes.
Ridiculous.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta. I think if I sit there and had my son live with me growing up, then if he was into basketball, I think I would be like, yeah, you know what, you can go ahead and take these 4 days off here, and we will sit here and watch college basketball this whole time.
There you go. So one thing before we walk away,
Go ahead.
I remembered. What the hell is OSU thinking changing their PA announcer?
Yeah, I heard. I didn't hear exactly what's going on with this, but
So
go ahead with it.
during the Indiana game, it was obvious through the broadcast that the PA announcing was different. And I had this moment while watching the game that maybe it's been different the whole season and I just haven't fully noticed it. But then as the game went on, I got more and more certain that this was totally new and totally annoying. And then come to find out from Bruce Hooley, of all people, come to find out that the regular PA announcer, and he's had the position for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, was relieved spontaneously, magically. I don't know the whole details. And they've put in some new PA announcer that's more like an NBA PA announcer, where he's screaming the players' names and doing all kinds of stupid. Here's my opinion on it, and maybe other people have a different opinion, but the thing about college basketball is it's not the NBA. Stop trying to make it like the NBA. I want to go watch college basketball games because it's not the NBA, because it is college basketball. And I like my PA announcer to just tell me what's going on. Don't cry the players' names like it's frickin' Euro soccer or whatever, right? Goal.
I seen that Matt McCoy put something out on Twitter, and I forgot to go back and listen to his show yesterday, where he, I guess, addressed it in the beginning of the show. So I got to go back and listen to that to see exactly what the heck happened or whatever, because I wasn't even really paying attention to anything like that. This game, I think I was for the Ohio State game. We were. Yeah, Chip and I were recording a Silver Bullets podcast, so I had the game going on in the background, I believe. So I didn't really get to hear anything, and I didn't go and rewatch it because I already watched it the first time.
Oh, it's annoying as all get out. It's not that I'm in any position to go to an OSU basketball game anytime soon, but it's basically guaranteed that I'll never attend one. That's how bad this is. I have no interest.
Well, I might have to listen to it on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen for it on Sunday and see. So, all right, yeah, in all seriousness, though, we're going to wrap this up so we're not, like, rambling on and everything here.
We're way past that point.
Yeah. Go Bucks for the Illinois game. Hopefully the Purdue game is probably going to be a very, very good game because we know that Ohio State's going to be focused for it because that's the way Chris Holtmann has his squad. So I think that they're wanting to show that they belong in the upper echelon of the Big Ten and that they're going to put everything on the line for that show. And it's going to be a fun, fun game. And hopefully next week when we talk, we are going to be tied for first place in the Big Ten.
That would sure be nice.
Yes, it would.
Tied for first place with the head-to-head.
And, especially with against Sparty, too, just in case there was another loss or something. So where can folks find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at EricTBBC.
Or you can find me on Twitter at ShannonCFB. You can listen to our shows on, subscribe and listen to our shows on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube. You can, the Ozone Radio Network on Twitter, Ozone Radio Network on Facebook. You can like the page, Silver Bullets Podcast on Facebook, Silver Bullets, SILVR Bullets Pod on Twitter. And, just if you want to send us an email or a question, just go ahead and hit us up at silverbulletspodcast@gmail.com. And for Eric, I am Shannon Sommers saying go Bucks and good night.
Go Bucks.